distinguished guests on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm an old man of IT, so not in current scheme of things as my younger colleague Jaju is there. So I'm now mostly in road construction. But I was in IT from 1997. So I've done 2 stints. I was 4 years as director of IT in Rajasthan and a couple of years as secretary of IT in Rajasthan. So I was telling Ravi that I will not talk of what we're doing in highways, but I'll just try to see try to tell you what were the challenges then and how the sector dynamics has changed and what, in my humble opinion, are the challenges that whole e-governance framework is facing now. So when we started IT in Rajasthan, very interestingly, the department was called Department of Computers. So that put things in a very different perspective. And I, as a relatively younger director, went to my chief minister, late, the stalwart Mr. Bhairav Singh Shekhawat. And I said, sir, I want to change the name of the department. So he said, why? Isko challe do aise hi. Computer pe hi to kaam karte ho. So I said, no, sir, we should address a sector, not a device. So he couldn't get it. So then I had to tell him, sir, if you see, there is this Department of Agriculture, not Department of Tractors. Then he got it. He said, yeah, put up a small cabinet note and we'll do it. And next 15 days, we converted the Department of Computers into Department of IT, and that changed the perspective. Those are early years, and Mr. Naidu, who was in that stint as the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, was leading the IT bandwagon, and we used to look up to the stalwarts sitting here, Mr. Chandrasekhar, Mr. Satyanarayan, Ma'am Aruna, and we tried to copy them as to what we were doing in their respective states and to see that how a relatively backward state like Rajasthan can catch up. And we were facing challenges of infrastructure, hardware, capacities, skills, applications, and those were the challenges we were trying to address. But since we were a little backward, we also had some advantages. We had no legacy, so we could start afresh. And the example that is given again and again for the mobile phone technology in India, that since you didn't have a legacy, you didn't have too many of landlines, you could immediately leapfrog into mobile network, and now we have one of the best mobile networks in the world. So that was the advantage we had. I still remember those days in November and December of 1999, when the whole world was struggling with Y2K, and the scare was being created as to what will happen to all the systems in Y2K, and all the banking systems will fail because the COBOL program didn't know how to address the year field in the 4 digits in 2000. And we were sitting happily because we had no legacy to be scared about. If you see now, the thing has turned on its head. Now you have a set of employees who are skilled in IT, and the challenge is to wean them away from Facebook to applications that matter in office, to use their IT skills in a more productive way so that the objectives of the department are met in terms of use of technology. You have a framework where there are multiple channels of engagement with the citizens. So now you have to have a mobile app, you have to have a website, you have to have an IVRS phone, but still the snail mail continues. And the challenge sitting at the government end is this multi-engagement framework with the citizen that needs to be handled. You can't get rid of the paper, you can't get rid of the website, it has to be there. The other challenges are that technology is changing very fast, and now we have a legacy. So we have a database, and we want to do newer things, and how do you integrate the older things into a newer domain without being too expensive? And that's the challenge that we face. Then the other challenge is everybody is doing their own thing. So how do you put it together? I think Jaju mentioned interoperability. the scalability, which I think Mr. Chandna mentioned. So the scalability, interoperability are the challenges which we face now. And then there are all these new things happening. I was just reading last evening, well, I thought, let me prepare for this speech. And there are new things like a hybrid cloud. So you have a cloud within your organization or a subgroup, and then there is a public cloud. So how do you integrate the two? How do you, Mr. Chandna in his presentation mentioned Internet of Things, how that can be used. And when I see my sector, there is a lot of scope for Internet of Things when we talk of road safety. So you have now devices embedded. So I attended a conference in Geneva on how they are talking of connected vehicles, and they're talking of evolving standards for connected vehicles. So a vehicle can communicate with another vehicle, a vehicle can communicate with infrastructure just to prevent accidents from happening. So when you want to do a vehicle to infrastructure, you need Internet of Things, you need an embedded thing in the infrastructure, you need an embedded device in vehicle, and those are the new challenges that we face. Now, very interestingly, we're putting a lot of CCTV cameras everywhere for security reasons. I think the government of Delhi wants to put maybe 100,000 in Delhi. We, as Highways Ministry, want to put at all our toll plazas. So we have the PTZ cameras, the pan, tilt, and zoom, and a little CCTV camera in all toll lanes in our 300 plus toll plazas. Now, what do you do with all the signal that come from there, the images that come? Who's going to analyze? Who's going to use that? So the new field that is developing is probably very vaguely can be called edge analytics. So what do? Do you get all the information at a central place and then analyze? But then you're wasting a lot of bandwidth transmitting that information. So the new thing to do is to analyze it at the point of reception itself. So now you have smarter cameras which can analyze the image pattern. And what are we interested in? We are interested in aberrations. We are interested in incident detection. So everything is going normal and the image pattern is not showing any abnormalities. You don't transmit that image. But if you see something which you think is an incident, which the camera thinks is an incident, then you transmit it back to the center and then it can be analyzed. Because if you have a few lakhs of cameras, to analyze those images to your advantage to be used fruitfully is a huge challenge. So how you do it? You have analytics there itself so that you save on the bandwidth for transmission. So these are the new challenges that we are facing. The other challenge we face in the highway ministries, other than what Mr. Jaju mentioned, is we have these toll plazas and different stretches of highways are being managed by different concessionaires. So if you travel from Delhi to Bombay on NH8, you have at least 12 concessions. So you pass from concession number 1 to concession number 2. One could be GMR, 2 could be GVK, third could be L&T, fourth. If you're trying to have a seamless card, a toll card, which the driver can use across India, then you need a mechanism to apportion the toll to these private guys who are authorized to collect the toll anyway. So you need like a bank, you need a clearing house where all this information captured through RFID, through the computer there and to the server central, is captured in a central database. Then like a clearing house, it knows that this concession belongs to this concessionaire and that is apportioned in a particular ratio at which that stretch is tolled. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing now. It's not easy to develop a clearing house. We are facing a lot of challenges. Some banks are cooperating, some are not cooperating. So we have to put everybody on board. So as I was mentioning, the things are changing, and when we started e-governance in the late 90s and early 2000s, we were told, I think it was some Gartner report or whatever, somebody else, maybe McKinsey report, that when you go through e-government, there are 4 phases. First is just your presence information. You create a website and you put all the information and people know that you are there and they don't have to rush to your office to get information. Then you start interaction phase, where people can send you mails, you can respond, you can give information. So from information, you move to interaction, and then you move to transaction. People can pay your bills, people can interact with you, get those forms, fill those forms, submit those forms. So you are interacting with the system. But the last phase, you are transacting with the system. So we have information, interaction, then transacting with the system. But last and most important is you are transforming the system. So that is transformation. So from information to interaction to transaction, logically you should move to transformation, which is how you govern a ministry, how you govern a department, how you govern a system. That should be transformed by extensively using information technology. But if you look back, we have not been able to achieve that. What we have done is, other than a few systems like Aadhaar, which have transformed the way governance is done, what we have done is we have basically just IT enabled the existing systems, which to me is not 100% e-governance or e-government. Unless we transform the way government does business, unless we transform the way we do things, the e-government chapter will not be over. So let's start thinking in that direction, and not just IT enabling the existing processes, maybe change the processes and do things in a better way so that the target, the citizen, gets these services in a better way. Thank you very much.